first off, let's take a look to see what the OSI model is. So it stands for Open Systems Interconnection Reference Models, the /RM. So this is basically a conceptual framework describing 7 layers of where a device goes through to share data with another device on a network. Remember, this is going to be a 7-layer model here. Outlines the different steps involved in a network to communicate between the various systems. So it doesn't have to be the same type of system. And this was basically developed by the International Organization of Standardizations, or basically ISO, to ensure the compatibility between different hardware and software from various vendors. Now let's take a look at some key takeaways from here. So again, it's a 7-layer model. Each of the layers are very distinct with specific functions. So they'll go as physical data link, network, transportation, session, presentation, and the application layer. I have a model coming up in a moment here to describe those in greater detail. So again, each layer is going to perform a specific task, building on the layer below it to facilitate data transmission from source to destination. Keep that in mind, because we're going to be utilizing this reference model in a couple of other situations. We'll revisit back when we talk about hardware. We'll revisit it back when we talk about the different protocols. And then we'll also revisit it when we talk about routing as well. So again, it's a very important model. Another thing is the interoperability. The OSI model is going to be critical in terms for ensuring that the network devices and the protocols can communicate effectively with each other. So now let's take a look to see how these layers are. So first of all, there are 7 layers, and however you want to remember this mnemonic. So we have basically this configuration. One way that I remember it is identifying that all people sing to Neil Diamond's phonographs. So some people like that, some don't. They don't quite understand maybe who Neil Diamond is or what a phonograph is. Another way to remember this mnemonic is all people seem to need data processing. And another one that kind of sticks a little bit better, we're going from the bottom up, that's please do not throw sausage pizza away. So at least when you have those letters, you're able to then identify basically the different layers of the OSI model. All right, let's take a look at the OSI model, and I'm going to basically be starting from the top. So the first one, the A, is going to be your application layer. P is going to be your presentation layer. S is your session layer. T would be for your transportation. N is for your network. D is for data. And then P would be your physical layer. You can see that these are color coded, so we're going to be basically grouping some of these layers together to create yet another configuration of the layers. Let's take a look at the functions of these layers here. So the application layer is going to work like this. This is going to be to initiate a request. User interfaces, for example, a web browser. So for example, you're going to get a web page. So at the server end, we have the process, which is going to be the web page. Presentation layer is going to be responsible for formatting, and that basically includes encoding or decoding depending on which direction you're going. So we'll basically take a look at that, and we have our information encoded. Session layer manages the communication, so we establish, maintain, and terminate the connection, so we're keeping track of that information. And then now at the transportation layer, this is where things get very interesting. This is where we identify segmentation and sequencing, end-to-end delivery. So what ends up happening here is portion of the information then is segmented, so we have a portion of the data here, and then we have a transportation. I'm going to utilize the term header on this part. Slowly but surely we're creating basically what we're going to call a network packet. Next part is going to be the network layers. So the network layer is used for routing, for logical addressing, and this is basically the foundation of a packet. So now we add this particular header to that. Next we have the data link layers, and this is for encapsulation, physical addressing, because one other thing that works on the data link layer is the MAC address. If you remember from before what the MAC address is, this is basically frame transmission as well as error detection. It also preps the information, or basically the frame, to get sent out by the specific hardware. So that means that we have a complete frame, or basically a complete packet, with appending the data link header to it. And at the end here we have what we call a CRC, which is a cyclical redundancy check. Once we have all the information, or the system has that information, it goes down to the physical layer, where it's responsible for the actual transmission of zeros and ones. So RxTX sending and receiving the zeros and ones, the bits, and that's being sent out. So to get a little bit of better visual here, so let's say that you're on your computer, you're requesting to view a web page from a web server. We're going to basically have our 7-layer model there. Again, these are all our steps, and if we take a look a little bit closer here, so first thing we do is we initialize the request. So it's getting the page that you want to view. Next thing is the information is going to get encoded, and then manage communication, where we're establishing, maintaining, and terminate the connection. So all these top three, we're getting that web page together. Once we get down to step number 4 here, the transportation, that's where segmentation occurs. So we're taking part of that data, dividing it up, and putting that transportation header. Moving a little bit further down, we get the routing, which we're going to add the network layer header to that. We have basically now a complete frame, or basically in a way our complete network packet, and that information is going to be sent. So all that information is going to go through on the server, and then that information will be sent to your computer. So again, this is a very important model that we're going to be reviewing from time and time again, and adding more components, like I said, with hardware, protocols, as well as routing. So you really need to know the different layers, what their purposes are, and how they work.